Alright, so as we get started today, you know, it is that time. New Pokemon cards, new TCG pockets that came out. So, of course, we gotta check it out, see what's going on with it. We'll open a standard set, and then a 10 pack or whatever. Purloin, Vanillite, Drampa, Torracat, and a Snorlax. Ooh. So, the fact that three of those are duplicates, I've only opened like 2 or 3 packs of this set, but you know how it is. You know, we start off with some duplicates. So there we go. I'll take that. That's not bad. Okay, so far I've got, what is that? That puts us at 17 out of 69. So let's open a tenner. It'll screw up my times, but whatever. And here we go. Set of 10. I know people talk about like sparkles and whatnot. I don't notice shit. Sableye, Mimikyu, Aipom, Salazzle, Brionne, a Melmetal, Squovit. I saw something in the back here. Torcat, Glaceon. Nice. I have the only other rare is I have the Sylveon, and the Sylveon looks nice. The illustration. Wishcash, Torracat, Minccino, Leftovers. Alright, we got a Joltik, a Howl, a Litten, and another Drampa. A Chinchino, another Litten, a Minccino, Applin, and Slurpuff. Alright, a Salandit, Purloin, Bounsweet, Mimikyu, and Wishcash. Nothing special there. An Incineroar, not bad. I know the EX for the starter of this set is Primarina. I've seen it in the Wonder trade, I just haven't picked it yet. Eevee and a Greedent. Alright, a Steenie. There's our Poplio. Another Poplio. Another Greedent. And a Liepard. An Applin. Another Poplio. Another Applin. Another Incineroar. And a Drampa. Okay, nothing good there. Alright, last pack magic. Greedent. Torkoal. Vanillite. Milcery. And a Penny. Look at a random support card. Okay. I'm unable to tell you what cards are good and what cards are bad. Really, I think the only was like the second pack. The rest of these packs were nothing special. I mean, some of these cards may be good. Like, if the Incineroar is good, I wouldn't be surprised. But the only card that actually had anything was the one. But hey, it's nice to get some cards. You know, continue working on what we need. Because, yeah, that's halfway. Halfway through the set. Not bad. I don't know any of what's in this set. I don't know if there are any shinies. Because I was surprised when Extraterrestrial had shinies. But okay, halfway through the set's not bad. Let's see, anything in the Wonder trade? Or Wonder pick, excuse me. I'll take a free bonus pick. Beast Wall again. Alright, nothing there. I've gotten to the point where it's like I should only use my for 2-star and for 2 heart and above. Because unless you're getting something rare, I really don't think there's much of a purpose to it. Usually one of the 2-star... I don't remember what the ranks are officially called. It's not star. It's like two whatever. Like the Espeon right there. That Espeon's probably worth it. Same thing with that Vaporeon, Leafeon. Yeah, so there's a lot of Eevees in the set. I mean, it's an Eevee set. I'm going to go for the Espeon. Okay. Just given my thought process, it starts in the bottom corner. It could still be in the bottom corner, or it could move to top left, middle, or bottom right. I'm going to go top middle. Nah, okay. Usually they tend to shift one over. It's not a guaranteed thing, but in my experience, they tend to move one over. Or they just stay in place, which also always sucks. Alright, well, I tried. I'll take some of that. Thank you. We'll get these two. Gym set. Because I gotta start... I used up so many hourglasses in the previous set that I gotta start, like, filling those back up. But, I mean, it paid off at the end of the day. Because... if we come down here to Extra Dimensional Crisis, 69 out of 69. That is nice. I'm glad to have, you know, completed one of these sets. I know that doesn't include all the illustrations, all the rares. I didn't even get the animated. If you come down here, I did not get the animated card. But, which is the old, I think this, and I'm missing Charizard from set 1, Dialga from set 2, or from the Space-Time Smackdown. I got 2 of these stupid cards before I got the normal EX. I got 2 of the full arts. Yeah, and then since I finished Extra Dimensional Crisis, I've been working on Shining Revelry because I'm literally only missing Pikachu. I'm just missing the Pikachu EX, and I just cannot get it. Same thing with Mythical Island. I'm just missing a Pidgeot EX, and I cannot get it. Yeah, there's the Sylveon. I think that looks great. Beautiful card. And there's our Glaceon we just got. Yeah, again, I don't really battle. I'm just here to collect. But man, do I like some of the cards we've gotten. Alright, with that, let me... hit that. I think I gotta hit... I think that's fine, Alright. So there's, you know, customary new Pokemon set. We had to open some cards, just because, you know, it's customary at this point. So for the actual show today, the plan is, as I think about it, where is that? It is this one? There we go. The plan, so last week I teased top 10 things I want to add to Mario Kart. You know, top 10 things I'd add to improve Mario Kart. I'm specifically thinking of it as like an additive thing. So that's what we're going to be doing. The first thing is we're going to go over this list. I've created 10 things. I thought about doing a bonus 11th, but now there is no bonus 11th. We'll talk about things along the way. So it's 10 things I'll add to improve Mario Kart. Then after that, we'll play some Mario Kart. I got 3 news stories, and then I've got 3 games I've been playing, and then we got 1 movie. Because I did watch KPop Demon Hunters, and boy, did I love it, but we'll talk about it. So, that's the plan. You know, should be pretty straightforward. So with that, let's talk about Mario Kart, shall we? So the thing with Mario Kart, as we get started, hopefully that's not too loud, is... So Mario Kart World came out. You know, it's been out for less than a month now. You know, it's been, 3 weeks with the game? And I will say, I do really like the game. I stand by Mario Kart World is a good game. But it is ultimately a flawed game. And that's what kind of kills it for me. Is, while I still would probably give it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, and I'll be honest, I've been getting frustrated with it recently, but that's mainly because I'm not good at the game, and I don't think I should actually hold that against the game itself. But I think with just, a few little changes, Mario Kart, some things they could add. So, admittedly, some of these are little, some of these are big, but I think it would help the game out a lot. Because what I think we have right now is good. I think it's a good game, but I don't think it's a great game. But I think it could be a great game. I really do think there's a lot of potential here for this to be, one of the greatest of all time. But at the moment, we're just not there. And it kind of sucks, because I really wish we were. Because I really want to, love this game and for it to be the best Mario Kart. But I don't think it is. So yeah, today, 10 things I'd add to improve Mario Kart World. So starting off, our first one here, just take influence from other games. One of the things I want to make clear that when we're doing this today is I think every change that I want to make is something another Nintendo game has already done. Be that Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, all the Splatoon games. Somewheres in this cacophony, there's an idea of, the perfect game. The perfect Mario Kart. I think when the game is being Mario Kart 8, it's at its peak. It's amazing. It's doing everything great. But when it's trying to be anything else, it falls short. When Mario Kart World is trying to be an open world game, it pales in comparison to something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. When it's trying to be an online multiplayer game, it pales in comparison to what they're doing in Splatoon. Nintendo really... Splatoon is not perfect, but Nintendo has learned a lot from making Splatoon. Throughout the 3 games, they get better and better, and have realized, oh, this is what people like about online games. These are things that get people coming back, that make them want to, partake in the game, do events. They get people interested. And Mario Kart World has none of that. And it's kind of disappointing. It is less than the sum of its parts. And that breaks my heart, because I know there's something amazing here. And if Nintendo just took some influence from some of their other games, I get it. These are all made by different studios. Splatoon is made by one studio, or one in-house development team. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are made by a different one. Mario Kart is made by a different one. I get it. There are 3 different teams here. But I wish they, talked to each other more. Took more influence from each other. Because at the moment, yeah, I think in what Mario Kart... When it comes to Mario Kart, they nailed it. But they really needed help in the other aspects. And I think if they just took that extra step, it'd help them out a lot. We're going to mostly talk about the Splatoon side of it, and less the Breath of the Wild one, but I guess that's where we should start, is the Breath of the Wild one. So, the first thing, give us P-switches on the map. This is a very broad map. There are just under 400 P-switches in the game. I want to say it's 394 or 396. There's a lot. There's just under 400. And there's no way to tell what P-switches you've already done. Don't get me wrong. I don't need them to, you open the map and it displays every P-switch. But at least show me the ones I've done, or break the map up into areas and be like, oh, in this area, you've completed... let's say there's 70 P-switches in just the snow area. you've completed 50 of them. You know, give me some indication of, you know, here's the areas I'm missing, here's what I need to do. You know, maybe you zoom real big in on the map and it'll show you exactly what you haven't done. I don't need to know what I haven't done, just what I have. I know there are P-Switch trackers that can help you out. There was an app that somebody made that I think Nintendo forced them to take down. Nintendo cease and desisted that. But, because this is going to be a theme of what everything we're about to talk about, Nintendo very much has the mentality of you play the game the way we intend, or you don't play the game at all. There's an old Yahtzee Croshaw bit where he says that Nintendo doesn't want a player. They want a little ducky on a string that they can pull around, showing all the neat little aspects of their game. They don't ask questions, they don't complain, they just do exactly what Nintendo says. And yep, this game proves that perfectly. I don't think every Nintendo game works like that, but this one definitely does. And we've seen it recently. We'll talk about the update here. Trust me, that's later down in these notes. But it's very clear that Nintendo has a very specific way they want things to be done. And if you don't do it like that, they're gonna try to punish you. So my other idea is, if you're not gonna show P-Switches on the map, give us a P-Switch sensor. You know, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both have a shrine sensor that works pretty well. It's not perfect, mind you, but at least, you know, as you're walking around the world, the P-Switch sensor, the shrine sensor goes off. You can go over, you can get the shrine. It works well enough. I would love a P-Switch sensor to at least give me an idea that I'm in the right place. That, like, oh, if I'm driving in the middle of the desert, at least, like, help me go into the right direction. Give me something. Because right now, it's just like, you're just what's the opposite of shooting fish in a barrel? Shooting fish in an ocean? Like, sure, you'll hit some. But there are so many more, and I know there are people who have gotten all the P-Switches without any guides. I get that. But there needs to be something. This is open world game design 101. Because another aspect of this that I've seen people throw around is the idea that Nintendo is embarrassed about Mario Kart World's open world. That, you know, free roam is just this little plus button on the main menu. It doesn't get its own option. It's not part of the single player menu. It's just the little plus button. You know, you could play the entire game and never even notice it's there, because the option's hidden down in the corner. And I get that. I get how people could miss that. Does that mean Nintendo's embarrassed by it? I guess maybe a little bit. But there are so many things that they could do to just make these little fixes that would improve things. But nope, Nintendo had a very specific vision, and it's a bad vision, but they're gonna stick to it, even though other games have done it better, including ones they made. So I would literally take either one. P-Switches on the map, a sensor. I prefer both, but I'll just give me something. Because right now, I'm shooting darts blind, and that sucks. So next up, we're gonna talk a lot about multiplayer stuff. I predicted this before the game released, and I really think this is a missed opportunity. Give me some sort of catalog, or a battle pass, or something, Nintendo. Give me a reason to play online other than number go up. Because right now, when you're playing Mario Kart World, the only thing you get from it is the number goes up. And sometimes you can get second or third place, and your number goes down because your number's high enough that the only thing that would make it go up is first. It's a very poorly designed system. Honestly, number go up gives me no incentive to play the game. Because here's the thing. I bet if you ask Nintendo, they will say, well, you should play Mario Kart World because it's fun. That players will continue to play Mario Kart World because it's a fun game. Because if the game's not fun, why play it? And I get that. That makes sense. The problem is that a game being fun is all internal motivation. That comes from the player. The player finds the game fun, so they continue to play it. There is nothing in Mario Kart World that acts as external motivation. Outside of number go up, there is no reason to continue playing the game. And I think this is a total missed opportunity. Because, like, Splatoon admittedly had the same problem for a while. That all you do is, you play the game online, your number go up. But then they eventually realized, like, oh, we should add a battle pass. So that way, people are playing, even if they're not doing well, they're at least adding to their catalog, which will give them rewards, give them new stuff. This game has none of that. There is literally no reason to play online. And I think the reason why is because Nintendo didn't want to design an online game. Online in Mario Kart is an afterthought. It's just, people are going to play online, so we might as well just add it. But they primarily intend this to be, a single-player game. A couch co-op game. Something you play with your friends around the TV. And, playing online is just an extension of that. Nintendo doesn't think of Mario Kart as like an online kart racer. And I really think that's a missed opportunity. Because that's how a lot of people play this game. Is as an online kart racer, the same way they'd play an online shooter or an online fighting game. I really do think it is an entirely missed opportunity. And especially because this game's new thing is they added in a bunch of costumes. How do you unlock those costumes? By eating the food. Literally, they're just completely random. And then same thing with the Kamek stuff. You have to use this Kamek item to unlock the NPC racers. But they're super rare. And certain NPC racers only spawn in certain zones, certain parts of the map. It really just feels like an afterthought. Like, if they had had, like, a catalog or a battle pass, or even, like, stuff like every 10 P-switches guarantees you a new character. So that way, yeah, sure, you can get them the other ways, but here, if you collect every P-switch, you'll get every character. That would have been nice. Just something to encourage me to continue playing the game outside of the internal motivation that the game is fun. Because, spoiler alert, the game isn't always fun. When you go online and you're losing match out of after match, you're getting knocked out in Knockout Tour on the first or second round, it's not fun. Really, it really starts to get demoralizing after a while if you're not good at the game. But if I'm not good at the game, but I know I'm working towards, like, unlocking the Mario Santa costume, or the Yoshi Santa costume, or whatever new cart or outfit or anything, then I'm like, okay, I at least have that motivation that I'm only a few hundred points away from that. But right now, I've got nothing. There is no reason to play online except for the game is fun. Now, this is a change I admittedly don't think Nintendo will make. This change is predicated on the idea... This is one of those changes that's like, Nintendo cannot make this change without entirely restructuring the game. They would have to go back and change the entire game to add something like this in. If this had been there, it would have had to be there at launch. So this is a change I do not see them making, but it would have been really nice. Just to have something. Just give me something. But no, Nintendo didn't want to make a multiplayer game. They wanted to make Mario Kart 8, but with an open world. And all the that game's over 11 years old. All the changes in gaming since then, they're just gonna completely ignore. I mean, that was so long ago, Mario Kart 8, that I don't even know if battle passes exist yet. I'm gonna, real quick, when was the first battle pass? I misspelled pass. The first battle pass was in Dota 2 in 2013. So that was what? That was a year before. But they're widely credited to Fortnite, which was December of 2017. I know this is just a shift in perspective. Nintendo doesn't, they didn't want Mario Kart to be an online multiplayer game. I think they should have. Because the other thing I would have liked, the other thing that would have been very nice, is some sort of ranked mode. You see Marvel Rivals, you see Splatoon, that have these ranked modes, where as you play through the game, as you complete laps and do tracks, you unlock new things. You get your rank up. You go from, Splatoon uses the A-B system, as I'm showing here, right? This is the B to A. But, other games use like Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Master Guardian, Elite. It would have been nice to have something, like, I'll use the slide again here. It might be like my next slide. But Smash Bros. Has Elite Smash. It would have been nice to have something like that. You play casual Mario Kart for a while, and eventually you unlocked ranked Mario Kart, where you could specifically complete in one of the Grand Prix. You play, instead of just doing random maps, it's ranked mode, you're competing in the Grand Prix against 24 other players, and based on, you do 4 races, based on where you place, that determines whether your rank goes up or down. I would have loved some of that Splatoon influence, some of that shooter, something that every other online racing game has done. And I get it, Nintendo doesn't want to make every other online racing game. Like, it's very clear Nintendo didn't want to make Burnout Paradise or Forza Horizons. But I get that. I get they wanted to make a Mario Kart. But take some influence from these other games. Again, I'm only citing other games Nintendo does well. This works in Splatoon. Sure, the system's not perfect, but it works in Splatoon. People like it. And people would have really liked it in Mario Kart. Sure, would I be shit at it because I'm bad at this game? Yes. But it would have been nice to have. Ranked mode, some sort of professional, some sort of, test your might against other players who are around the same ranked. But nope, that's too modern for Nintendo. That's too much of a modern online thing. We still want to treat this game like we did on the N64. It's so much missed potential. Like, there's good ideas here, but you just come a little bit short, and it breaks my heart. So the next thing, there was a recent update where people like the online modes, or people online. The online, I'll be honest, I've not had a single connectivity issue. But the problem with the online, specifically for the versus mode, is that they give you the choice of the 3 tracks and then random. Now, if you pick the 3 tracks, more likely than not, you're going to be doing an intermission track, where you do 1 track on the intermission, and then you do 1 lap around whatever track you pick. DK Pass, Choco Mountain, Toad's Factory, whatever it is. But people realized that, hey, if you select random, then it'll just pick a random track, and that random track will do the traditional 3 laps. Because, well, yes, I do not think the intermission tracks are bad at all. I do enjoy them well enough, especially in Knockout Tour. I think the intermission tracks work very well. But some people just want, traditional 3-lap Mario. And in the most recent update that came out, yesterday, 2 days ago, Nintendo changed it so that way if you pick random, sure, it can still give you one of those other 3-lap tracks, but it can also give you one of the intermissions. They added intermissions to random. So now it is a very high likelihood that you will get one of those intermissions. And this is a common complaint of the game. People want to do 3 laps, but Nintendo taking it away, being that their number one priority. Nintendo's number one priority in this game is taking away something that people were doing. Because, again, it's not the way they intended for you to play. Because there are 2 common beliefs, I know I say this all the time, that video game developers have the right to make the game however they see fit. but video game players have the right to play the game however they want. I know those two ideas may seem contradictory, but they are both true at the same time. Now, Nintendo doesn't believe that. Nintendo definitely believes in Principle 1. They don't really believe in Principle 2. Again, it's complicated. I'd say Breath of the Wild is very good at letting the player play however they want. But, the Mario teams? No, not really. They think that you should play the game they want. No ands, ifs, or buts. And it really, this should not have been their number one priority. Or, let people play the way they want to. There's another question that this is a genuine question I have. If Nintendo changed the game, so that way, when you picked an intermission track, it did the intermission, and then instead of doing 1 lap, it did 3 laps. Would people be okay with that? Would that be an okay compromise? Or is it you can have one or the other? Because the reason I don't think Nintendo did that is because they believe it would be too long. Because let's say you do a 3-lap race. Let's just the hypothetical 3-lap race takes 3 minutes. 1 minute per lap. So when designing the intermissions, Nintendo kept that in mind and was like, okay, each intermission track will take 2 minutes, and then they'll do 1 lap, which takes 3, which gets you to that 3rd minute. So no matter if you're doing a 3-lap track or an intermission, it takes the same amount of time. I get it. That's why Nintendo designed it the way they did. But would anybody actually have a problem is if after doing the 2-minute intermission, you did 3 laps, which took 3 minutes? So instead of a standard online course taking 3 minutes, it now takes 5. Same thing in the Grand Prix. If the Grand Prix was bumped to 3 laps per track, and a Grand Prix used to take 12 minutes, and now it takes, 18 minutes? I guess it'd take 18. Would anybody actually have a problem with that? If that's the compromise? Because it's not something I've seen people say you can either do the intermissions or you can do the 3 laps. I really haven't seen many people, ever since this update's been announced, say that's the compromise. But I think that's an okay compromise, allowing people, it changed for certain tracks. DK Spaceport would obviously just be 1 long lap. Koopa Beach would be, you drive the intermission, which is a straight line, and then you do 5 laps around Koopa Beach, because the 1 lap on Koopa Beach takes, less than 30 seconds. That's why Koopa Beach is a 5-lap track. Because, imagine if they added Baby Park, you drive to Baby Park, you do a single lap, and that's it. That would kind of suck. And especially because there are some tracks, like Rainbow Road, like DK Spaceport, where you do the entire track. And then there are others where you only do it once. I feel like that would be a good compromise. But it's just something I've seen nobody suggest, so I don't know if people actually want that, or if they just want one way or another. Now, what is the actual solution to this problem? So if you remember Smash Bros. Back in the day, they used to have and this was specifically Smash Bros. U. This was the Wii U version, where when you went online, you could play for fun or for glory. For fun was the mode with items, it was a lot more casual. I don't remember if it was time limit, I can't remember if it was time or stock, but it was the casual mode. Meanwhile, for glory was, your battlefield, your Omega stages. It was, win or lose records. This is more akin, Smash Ultimate has Elite Smash. It's more akin to that, but it's more professional. They did this idea of 2 modes. I think it worked well. So what if we do the same thing for Mario Kart? What if in Mario Kart, when you go online, you're given the option of the traditional drive and the scenic drive? And the only difference is one has intermissions, one doesn't. So the traditional drive is, just like like you're playing Mario Kart 8. You just pick one of the tracks, you do the 3 laps, and you call it a day. And then you get a choice of one of the random next 3 tracks, and keep going. Meanwhile, Scenic Drive works like how it currently does. You pick a track, you do the intermission, and then you do 1 lap around that track, and pick the next one. I think this is the compromise. I could see Nintendo being like, oh, well, we're worried that everyone will pick traditional drive and nobody will pick scenic drive. And I do get that concern. I see why they would be concerned about it. But if the player base is large enough, people will play everything. If Splatoon has shown, because that was Nintendo's worry with Splatoon, that, you know, too many people were going to be playing Salmon Run, that nobody would be playing the main mode. That's why Salmon Run only happened at certain times. At least that's what I assume the intention was. And then eventually Nintendo realized, like, oh no, if the player base is large enough, everyone will just play everything. And that's why Splatoon 3 doesn't have that issue. Mostly. So I feel like that's the solution. Just simple, you know, if people want the intermissions, there's a mode for that. If they don't, well, then they don't. And of course, if you're playing with friends, you can do whatever you want. But that's already kind of the case, that playing with friends allows you to do whatever you want. So that's my second solution. I feel like one of those two would work. It's just, is Nintendo going to do it? Because they clearly have a vision for this new Mario Kart, and they consider each one of the intermissions their own unique tracks. Because this game, right, it has 30 traditional tracks, but it has like 200 intermissions, and they consider intermissions the new tracks. And I could see, and the whole reason we're probably in this scenario in the first place is because Nintendo put all this effort into the intermissions that they don't want people ignoring it. That, like, we made this, you know, we spent time on it. We don't want people just not doing it. Next up, I just want new tracks, you know, new islands. We've got, you know, Isle Delfino down here. I'd love to see a bunch of sunshine courses. And, of course, these are not for scale, obviously. But, like, imagine us going to Isle Delfino. You drive around Delfino Plaza. There's you go to the amusement park, wherever that is. I think it's... I actually don't remember where the amusement park is. But you go to the amusement park, and hey, guess what? In the amusement park is Baby Park. So they bring that back. There's the volcano, and maybe they do... You know how, like, they kind of redid Choco Mountain to make it more industrial? What if they redid Grumble Volcano, but made it like a goo volcano, or something weird like that? Or they put in one of the Bowser's castles, and... I don't know, there's a bunch of things they could do... But there's a lot of Mario Sunshine references in Mario Kart World, and I feel like going to Isle Delfino would make a lot of sense. Super Mario World, you know, go to Dinosaur Island, and I don't need them to be like, they could be brand new continents. I don't need us to do something that already exists. They could be all brand new continents. But, you know, have a mix of new tracks, retro tracks. Even if they want to do a bunch of interconnected retro tracks, that would be cool. Mushroom Kingdom, this is the Mushroom Kingdom from Odyssey. It'd be cool to see that. You know, this is where you bring back some of the Mario, like, bring back Wii Luigi Circuit. Bring back Peach's Castle from the 3DS version. Was it called Peach's Castle? I don't know, just bring back a lot of classic tracks. And then, of course, do a Donkey Kong Island. You know, there's that Donkey Kong track in 8 that everybody loves. But, you know, add some new Donkey Kong tracks. Do a track that, like, is themed off of, like, the rail ridings, the minecart levels. That's the word I was looking for. There's a lot of potential here. I think this is gonna happen. It would be crazy if Nintendo made Mario Kart World and then had no plans for DLC. That they're just like, nope, we're releasing the base game with 30 tracks. We're perfectly content with this. We plan on doing nothing more. Because Mario Kart 8 DLC was a massive success. There's got to be something they're working on. And my hope would have been that by now we would have known. Because by the next Nintendo Direct, we will know one way or another. We will know something by the next Nintendo Direct. Which the rumor is in July. But I would have figured we would have known by now, especially with all the backlash. Imagine if Nintendo came out and was like, hey, for people who are excited for Mario Kart World, guess what? We're going to be doing a bunch of free DLC. And hey, here's going to be your first DLC coming out later in the summer of 2025. Or here's, your first DLC tracks coming in fall of 2025. Just keying us in that, like, and I think they have to do it for free, because I think everyone's in agreement that while Mario Kart World is a good game, it does not justify its $80 price point. There is nothing in this game that's like, yes, this is worth $80. I think that's generally agreed upon, but if you tell people, like, hey, we're going to be doing all these updates, and they're all free, we're going to be adding new tracks and whatnot, I think that would help justify it a lot. I mean, I don't know if it fully puts us there, I'd have to see where we end it, but I really hope they plan something. Other than the next obvious one, give us more costumes. It's really weird, because, like, there's a bunch of costumes that, like, you would expect to be there that just aren't there. Like, I'm genuinely really surprised the Luigi's Mansion King Boo isn't there. But, people have pointed out that Pauline and Donkey Kong only have one costume each. Why? Especially because in Mario Kart Tour, they each had like 3 or 4 more. And, of course, the obvious speculation is that they're going to pull a Smash Bros. And tie it into what's currently going on. So, next month, in July, either before or around the same time as Donkey Kong Bonanza, I would not at all be surprised if they announce, hey, here's the first wave of costume DLC, and it adds a bunch of costumes for Donkey Kong and Pauline. Give us that cross-promotion. I would say that they continue doing that, but Nintendo actually recently came out, the developers said, that the only reason Mario Kart World got, like, Zelda, or Link, the villagers, the Splatoon Inklings, was because Nintendo was desperate. Nintendo was in their desperation era, and as a result they threw in other characters to try to convince more people to buy the game. But now that Nintendo's no longer in a desperation era, they don't feel the need to add any non-Mario characters, which I just feel like is a missed opportunity. Like, imagine the new Kirby games coming out, like Kirby Air Riders. And sure, I know that's also a racing game, but then it has a tie-in with Mario Kart World that adds Kirby to the game. Or, when Age of Imprisonment comes out, let's say in December, and they add Zelda to the game. I feel like there's such an opportunity to have, like, these crossovers, this cross-promotion, that Nintendo just doesn't seem interested in anymore. Not that they have to be, but it would have been nice. It could have been fun. Because sure, people like Mario characters, and there's a lot of good costumes in the game, but it just kind of makes sense. But I want more costumes. I also want more carts. The cart selection in the game isn't terrible, but there's always room for more. I'd love to see some classic carts, Luigi's Hoover, the Yoshi Egg. I'd love for them to bring in, the minecart, right? Rambi. More bikes, obviously. I know that's not a bike with the Witch's Broom, but that'd be cool as well. Just, keep adding stuff. This is an obvious one, but it just makes sense. The licenses. So, you might not even know this depending on how you've played, but when you go online and you play with friends, there's a license the game creates for you. It's very simple. It just has your name, the badge you pick, and the character you play as. And I'll be honest, I wish there was more customization. Because sometimes you get into lobbies, and especially with people who don't play as much, it kind of looks like that. Admittedly, the more time that goes on, the less I've seen of this. But this should be, this should have been a whole thing. That, like, hey, you get to pick your badges, you get to pick your backgrounds. Maybe you could, like, flip over the license plate and, like, it displays, like, your rank and some of your stats. Maybe there's a big thing about, like, exchanging license plates. Like, what was the game that had dog tags? Call of Duty, yes. But there was a Nintendo game that did do, like, that had you, like, create your dog tags. Of course, Splatoon has its nameplates. I would have liked more customization here, because this was an idea I had for this game. We did a prediction video about predicting the next Mario Kart, and this was an idea I had. But I had more customization than this. I feel like the amount of customization we currently have kind of sucks. It's just kind of generic, kind of boring. I want this to be like a bigger feature. Right now, it's nothing. And I wish this had been in everything. Like, no matter if you're playing with friends or playing with randoms online, when you look at the stat screen, instead of just seeing like a bunch of lists and names, imagine if it had their license, or their, license. That would have been cool. But right now, the way it is, it's just kind of boring. The next thing, the super obvious thing that I'm blown away isn't in this game. Why isn't there a jukebox? Why can I not pause the game and just pick what music I like, make a playlist of all my favorite songs, and of course none of it's on Nintendo Music. Like the music we're currently playing, I'm just getting off YouTube. Because even though this seems like such an obvious thing to let us, pick the songs, the music in Mario Kart World is maybe the best of any Mario game. There are so many classic arrangements of so many good songs from the past 40 years of Mario Kart. And just Mario in general, actually. And there's no real way to listen to whatever you want. It's, yeah, sure, some tracks have certain sounds. Like, yeah, every time I drive through Crown City, you hear Jump Up Superstar or something like that. But for the most part, it's completely random. This seems like such an obvious thing. I mean, the one I'm taking from here is the combination of the Splatoon one and the one from Mario Odyssey. But the new Donkey Kong game that comes out in like 3-4 weeks also has a music player in it that works perfect, that works exactly like Mario Odyssey. I don't know how they missed this. This is, again, I said at the beginning, Mario Kart World is less than the sum of its parts. Any other open world game that Nintendo has done realized, hey, people are going to want a music player. Let's just put one in there. But not Mario Kart World. I don't know how they missed such an obvious thing. But they did. And for my last thing, the thing that blows my mind wasn't in this game. Did you ever play Mario Kart Home Circuit? I don't blame you if you didn't. It wasn't like a great game. It was very bare minimum. But it had a very interesting idea in it. That being, you could create your own circuit. You can create your own tracks. So if we look at these two top images, you can see the 4 goalposts are laid out in the exact same way, but based around how the player sets up the track, right? This one goes in a circle, but this one makes a figure 8. This one, meanwhile, you shift around the goalpost, and now you can add an entire new loop. It's a great little mechanic that amazes me that Mario Kart World doesn't have that. Like, I think it would make great sense if you could just start driving, and hey, this is point A, you drive to the next spot, you sit down at another point, so on and so forth. You can create your own tracks, your own playlists, using the intermissions as you go. There is such an opportunity here for customization, creating your own track layouts, creating your own playlists. These are very big, but like imagine a track layout that just used the intermissions, or that didn't use anything. Maybe you're just driving through the desert between the intermissions, and instead of going into a track, you're just making a loop around it. Let me make my own custom tracks. I get it. Nintendo says, oh, this game has over 200 tracks. Yeah, let us make our own and have infinite tracks. I'm not saying they need to make like a course builder, even though a course builder that allows you because there are certain obstacles you can place, you could place item boxes. That would all be very nice, and I think that could work very well. Or maybe the game just does it all for you. Every certain amount of meters, they throw in some item boxes. Maybe there are certain, goal rings already exist in the game. Maybe there are certain goal rings you have to drive through because you can't shortcut from here to here, because that would count as cheating. There are ways to do this, and it seemed like such an obvious thing that would add nigh infinite replayability to the game. That, you know, anyone can make their own tracks, you can share them online. There is so much potential here. And they just did none of it. This, in my opinion, is the biggest missed opportunity in the game. That's why I put it here at number 10. I feel like there is so much potential for this. Whether you're making a playlist, or, you know, going off-road, making your own knockout tour courses, there could be so much done here. And they did none of it. It's just... they're so close. They've already got a really good game. Again, I'd give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10. It's really good. But it'd just be these little extra steps that would push us over the top into something spectacular. And when push came to shove, they just didn't go the distance. And they still could. Again, I think this one is still totally possible. The Battle Pass thing doesn't jive with how the game currently works. Same thing with like a ranked mode. I think you could work that stuff in, but this, they must have thought of this. Again, they did it on home circuit. It worked well enough on home circuit. Just a little more to get us here. And it'd be amazing. But no, nothing yet. And with no signs of any DLC or anything. I know the game's only 3 weeks old. But I'm worried. I'm worried to say the least. And that's it. That's 10 things I'd add to Mario Kart World. How were my ideas? Did they make sense? Were they fucking dog water? You know, tell me down below. I'd love to know. But yeah, I think Mario Kart World is a great game that if you just add a little more, it would take us over the top. I've seen a lot of people talking about Game of the Year. You know, we're basically halfway through the year. People are already asking, hey, at the midpoint of the year, what is the Game of the Year? And I know the Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World kind of have the world against them at the moment, that people are just kind of hating on them for, you know, some very fair reasons, but also some misinformation bullshit. But almost nobody mentions Mario Kart World, and I kind of get it, especially because I think Donkey Kong is going to completely overshadow it in like 2 or 3 weeks. But I really wish the game just take those few extra steps where it's like, yeah, this is going to be nominated for Game of the Year come December. But at the moment, I just can't see it. I think they're close. Closer than they have been in a long time. But they just don't quite make it. And it breaks my heart. And with this whole recent update that kind of ruined one of the things people liked, that, again, was only a workaround that didn't actually solve the problem. The fact that Nintendo clearly doesn't want to solve this problem and has instead doubled down is not a good omen. That's very bad, and I worry things are going to get worse before they get better, if they ever get better. But I guess only time will tell. So that's all I got for you there. Let me actually boot up the game now. Boop. Alright, so I guess while I'm booting it up, let's talk gaming news, shall we? So, for the news today, we got 3 stories, 3 hopefully quick stories, and then we'll get to the stuff I actually want to talk about, aka KPop Demon Hunter. That's the one thing we for sure have to get to. Everything else is just kind of superfluous. But we're in post-Summer Games Fest season, and that tends to be the time of year where there are no news stories. So that's why. Alright. Alright, there we go. I think we're back. So we got 3 stories. First one, Xbox announced their Rogue Ally a few weeks ago. This week they announced a Meta Quest. We've got an update on Drag X Drive, the new Nintendo, a new Nintendo IP. We got its price, its release date. And finally, there's a rumor going on about Sakurai's new game, or you know what Sakurai's working on. So I thought we'd talk about that. So we'll get through all this real quick. And I am turning on a fan because I am so hot. I don't know if you've heard about this heat wave going across the U.S., but it's bad. So our first news story is about Mario Kart. Or about Xbox. Ugh. Our first news story is about Xbox. Specifically, the Xbox Meta Quest 3S. So, you know, Xbox in recent months has gone big into the everything is an Xbox. Your TV's an Xbox. Your phone's an Xbox. Your refrigerator's an Xbox. And they teamed up with ROG Ally to make an Xbox handheld. Well, they've also teamed up with Meta to make an Xbox VR headset. Now, I want to be very clear, Xbox is not making VR games. This is not Xbox is like, oh, we're going to start making our own VR games. You know, here's Halo in VR. Do I think that could work? Yeah, I think Halo in VR could be fun. But that's not what they're doing. This is instead treating, from how I understand it, treating the Meta Quest more as like a TV you wear on your head. Kind of like what that the Apple Vision Pro was. Do people talk about that anymore? I legitimately haven't heard a person mention it since, like, the last thing I heard about that was Eddie Burback talking about it when he tried it out. But that's how I think Xbox is treating this. That, like, hey, you can get this Meta Quest, and then you can treat it like like your own personal TV. You can sit down and you can play your Xbox games as if you're looking up at like a giant TV that displays your games. I get that appeal. And of course, it's going to have access to Xbox Game Pass. I think it comes with 3 months of Xbox Game Pass. So if you want to play Xbox Game Pass with your games, yep, you will for sure be able to. So that's the first thing. So that's what they're doing. Of course, it's going to still have access to like the MetaQuest shop. So if you want to play that new Deadpool VR game, or if you want to play that, what was it? The Batman Arkham Shadow. If you want to play that, presumably that will still be playable on this. But, you know, it also has Game Pass. It comes with months of Game Pass. I get this. I don't know anybody who would buy this. Not off to a good start. Yeah, I don't know anybody who would buy this. I don't know anybody this appeals to. But, you know, in a world where everything's an Xbox, I definitely think this is a better take than what PlayStation did. Not that, because I've played the PSVR 2. I don't hate the PSVR 2. But I definitely think it was a miss to require the PSVR 2 to have a PS5 to hook it up to. Admittedly, you can use it as a PC gaming nowadays, which is cool. I'm glad that they made that adapter and whatnot. Again, not that I've ever used it or anything. But I feel like this is actually probably the better step. Because not everyone's going to want, you know, a MetaQuest. I feel like those things are outdated. Or, not outdated, but I feel like VR just isn't there yet. But if you tell someone, hey, you know, you can get this Xbox VR headset that will play, you know, VR games, you know, check out that really good Batman game. But you can also play any of your Xbox games on it. I feel like that appeals to a lot of people. I get the appeal of that. I get why this would work. So yeah, am I going to buy this? Do I know anyone who's going to buy this? No. But I get why it exists. And it's probably a better deal from Microsoft than them trying to make their own VR hardware, like PlayStation, that then PlayStation immediately forgets about. Twice. Because they did that twice, by the way. So yeah. Next up, Drag X Drive. So this is the new Nintendo IP. This always felt like a smaller game. And so this week, we found out the release date, August 18th. I'll be honest, I think we called that. I want to say when we talked about that like a week or two ago, I had said it was going to come out in August. Right now, it seems to be a digital-only game. I have seen no evidence this is getting a physical release. I could be wrong, but I do think this is going to be digital only. And the price point? $20. I don't think that's that bad. I have seen some people complain about this. That, oh, it's too expensive, this should have just been a pack-in game. How dare you, Nintendo. Charge $10 for your welcome tour, which was a tech demo. Charge $20 for this, which is also basically just a tech demo. Oh, God, we barely made that. Fuck. I get that. I get that complaint, and I can see why people would say it's too expensive. Personally, I don't think $20 is that bad. Listen, I get not everyone's going to pick up and play this game. I get it's not for everyone. I do think it looks kind of generic. It reminds me of, like, you know, when Disney makes, like, one of those, like, oh, here's John Carter. Here's... I don't want to use Atlantis as a comparison, but for lack of a better comparison, there's a lot of Nintendo magic that Drag X Drive doesn't have. Like, I think of ARMS, that was a Switch 1 release title. And that game, you know, it had its flaws, but it was packed full of charm. It had some great character design. And this game just doesn't have that. I mean, sure, I like the wheelchair basketball aspect. You know, I'm always down for some... Who's that Toadette doing? I'm always down for some representation. But it looks just kind of generic. The game doesn't have any color to it. Not that every Nintendo thing needs color, but Nintendo's kind of known for it. It'd be like if, again, like if Disney made like a super serious noir movie, but, you know, they branded it as like from the people who made Snow White and Zootopia comes Disney's Chinatown. Like, it's just kind of missing, like, that feels kind of off. There's some charm that's missing there. But I do think this could be fun. Would you say overall right now that the Switch 2 is worth $500? No? Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the Switch 2. Is that, yes, at the moment, I would not say it's worth $500. I enjoy the Switch 2. I enjoy Mario Kart. I do not think it is currently worth that, but I think it will be. Especially if you do not own a Switch. Because I know the original Switch sold 152 million units. But there were a lot of people who completely missed out on the Switch, who never played it. If you have never played the Switch before, I would recommend picking up a Switch 2 over getting an OG Switch. Because one of the nice things about the Switch 2 is that it's completely backwards compatible. Sure, not every game works, but like 90% of them do. And it's probably closer to like 98%. It's a lot. So the fact that this is backwards compatible is kind of a huge deal. Like, I need to migrate, like sometime in the next week or so, I need to move up my Pokemon. But it's really nice to have that backwards compatibility. And because basically everybody I know has at least one Switch game they didn't play. You know, for a lot of people it's Xenoblade. Right? If you've never played like that, if you missed out on that, if you missed out on Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, or, you know, Super Mario RPG, the Switch 2, well, sure, there's not much on it now. It is a good excuse to go back to those games. Because not all of them did get updates, but some of them did. Link's Awakening runs amazingly now, I guess. I don't know, I've replayed that game like 4 times last year. I might do it again this year. So I think going back and playing previous games, but also you're investing in future games. Right? Like, if you're someone who never owned a Switch, and now because the Switch 2 is out and you can find a Switch 1 for cheaper, I'd still think it's probably worth it to get a Switch 2. Because that Switch 1 will stop playing games next year. You know, Rhythm Heaven Groove and Tomodachi Life are gonna be the last 2 Switch 1 games. Because unlike PlayStation and Xbox, where they continue releasing, like, the PS4, the new Call of Duty is releasing on the PS4 this year. Nintendo doesn't do that. They will stop making Nintendo Switch games within the next 18 months. True, but the fact that Nintendo has the right to break your console at any time is crazy to me. Guess what? Xbox has the right to break your console at any time. PlayStation has the right to break your console at any time. Steam, you know, everyone's God's savior, Steam, has the right to lock you out of your account at any time if you break any of their terms of service and take away all of your games. Every other console works like this. People are just blowing it out of proportion for Nintendo because they're the last ones to do it. And people are making a bigger deal out of it. If I bought my console... And guess what? People have already started working on getting Linux running on the Switch too. People will find ways around this. Just, you know, don't use a MIG switch at the moment. You still own the console. But they don't have to give you a reason. Actually, yes, they do. Like, everyone who's had their console currently locked because of the MIG switch, they say it's because of the MIG switch. They know why it happened. Nintendo, sure, will some people fall through the cracks? Guess what? That happens on Xbox, that happens on PlayStation, that happens on Steam. People will just randomly get banned. And you have to appeal to Nintendo, or to Microsoft, or PlayStation. Guess what? That happens. But that happens to less than 0.001% of people. The vast majority of people will never experience that. And my number is probably way too high. I probably didn't use enough zeros there. People blow this way out of proportion. Like, if you guessed how many modded Switches were out there, there are 152 million Switches. Probably less than 1 million Switches have been modded. Not that many people mod their consoles. Sure, some people do, but not nearly as many as you'd think. Same thing with the MIG switch. Not that many people have a MIG switch. I think people, you know, it's fear-mongering. It's the same thing that's going on in politics with Iran right now, saying we're 6 months away from nuclear weapons. They've been saying that for 20 years. People have been saying Xbox is gonna... People, you know, should have been saying Xbox is gonna brand your console for no reason since the original Xbox, and nobody has. Not being able to sue. That is bullshit, but also I think what Disney does is way worse. Because Disney says that, you know, if you... Like, let's say there was a case from Disney... And I know this is apples and oranges, but there was a case from Disney where someone's kid died at Disneyland. They sued Disney, but because they had been subscribed to Disney Plus, Disney was able to get the lawsuit thrown out. Apple, same thing. If you change, let's say your screen on an iPhone cracks, and you try to change your screen, they can completely lock you out of your phone, and there is nothing you can do about it. Sure, it's super fucked up, and what Nintendo's doing isn't great, and guess what? Just because Nintendo says in their TOS you can't sue them, does not mean you can't try. Within the next few years, people are going to sue Nintendo for whatever bullshit they're doing. And that's when it comes down. They can say you can't sue them, but just because they say it, doesn't mean it's true. Just because someone says you can't do something doesn't mean that it's true. Like, again, politics. Look at everything that happened in the Supreme Court today. Just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true. So yeah, guess what? What Nintendo's doing isn't great, but other companies are worse. Not, again, it's apples and oranges at the end of the day, but I still don't think it's that bad. Yeah, it is anti-consumer, and it is scare tactics. But, you know, not everyone's going to fall for those scare tactics. I mean, look at all those class action Joy-Con lawsuits. Which, by the way, it is illegal to for someone to sign away their rights to a class action lawsuit. That's also a thing. Like, that's illegal, at least in the United States. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. What was I talking about? I know I went off on two massive rants there. Oh yeah, Drag X Drive. I might pick up Drag X Drive. Sure, it's only $20. Actually, I think, well, they haven't fixed the issue. Nintendo did settle in court, and they have anyone who suffers Joy-Con drift, they have to fix for free. So yes, that did get set. Even if the Joy-Cons don't even if they didn't fully fix drifting on Joy-Con 1s, that lawsuit did have repercussions. People didn't get money per se, like other class action lawsuits, but there were repercussions. But yeah, no, I might pick up Drag X Drive. The thing is, I could have totally seen Nintendo charging $60 for Drag X Drive. They charge $60 for ARMS. They charge $60 for 1-2 Switch. I would not have at all been surprised if they charged $60 for Drag X Drive. But it's a $20 game at that smaller price point. Yeah, that does suck. I get it. My Pro Controller had drift. I didn't really have drifty Joy-Cons, but my Pro Controller did. My PS4 controller did. I totally get it. But yeah, at that $20 price point, I might pick up Drag X Drive, but I could also see it being the whole motion where you have to move it forwards. You need Nintendo says oh, you can use the mouse controls on your legs. And I guess that works, but I want to do it on a desk. I could see it being very demanding, very repetitive. I get how that could be annoying, but for $20, I'm willing to try it. I don't know how extensive the game's gonna be. It's gonna have a little customization. If we get lucky, it'll have a few maps. Clearly, Drag X Drive is not meant to be the next ARMS. It's not the next Splatoon. That's never what Nintendo intended. It's supposed to be a smaller game that, kind of shows off some of the mouse features. And, at least for me personally, I'm fine making that small investment. I'm at least curious enough. I don't know, August 18th is not that far off. It's 2 months away? Little less than that, actually. So, yeah. We'll see. We'll see if people get Joy-Con drift on Switch 2. There are some people who say that it's guaranteed to happen. I don't want to be 100% certain in that, because people always talk about oh, if they had used Hall Effect sticks, we wouldn't get drift. There are reports of Hall Effect sticks that have drift. That is still something that is possible. People act like that's the ultimate end-all be-all solution. It's not perfect either. But right now, anyone who says they have drift doesn't have drift. They just have broken controllers. Because what drift was caused by wear down over time. Drift doesn't happen in 3 weeks. 3 months maybe, but 3 weeks, no. But, we'll deal with that when we do. But so far, I get the concern, but I'm not hesitant, but, I'll deal with that bridge when I get to it. Right? We'll burn that bridge when we get there. Right now, I'm not as worried as others are. We'll see. And hey, just play all your games in mouse mode. Okay, so that's that story. Our next story is Smash Bros. So, Masahiro Sakurai recently did an interview. And, okay, in the interview, he talked about AI. He talked about how games are getting too big, that game developers are going to start using AI to make game development go quicker. And you know what? Honestly, I get that. Do I think that game developers should be using AI? Fuck no. Fuck AI. Fuck ChatGPT. But I get where I've seen some people take that statement from Sakurai and be like, oh, does this mean that Sakurai is going to be using AI in his games? I don't think so. I don't think that's what this means. I legitimately... Because, Sakurai just did a whole series about game development. And so him doing that series, I could see him being like, well, I see more people... games are bigger and bigger. Look at Hideo Kojima's game that just came out. That game's huge. And I could see him... Like, someone like Hideo Kojima wouldn't use AI because he has morals. He has standards. But not everyone's Hideo Kojima. Sometimes big business gets in the way. And someone from Activision Blizzard says, oh, we have to use AI in our game. Or, we're not going to hire any voice actors. We're just going to use AI. It'll speed up development time. That sounds awful. But I get where he's coming from that. Where he's coming with that. So that's the first big story. So that's the first part of the story. That's like the actual stuff that's concrete. The rumor part that's come out since this interview happened is that allegedly, this is just a rumor, there's no confirming this, but allegedly, when making Kirby Air Riders, did he really? What do you think the next Smash Bros? Did he really? What do you think is next for Smash Bros? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So, we know Sakurai is making Kirby Air Riders. So, the rumor is, allegedly, Sakurai, in order to make Kirby Air Riders, he made a deal with Nintendo. He basically bargained. He told Nintendo that, hey, I know you want another Smash Bros. Game, because Smash Ultimate is huge. And obviously Nintendo wants Smash Bros. 6. So Sakurai allegedly made a deal that if he will make Smash Bros. 6, so Sakurai will, even though he's burnt out, he will come back and make the next Smash Bros. As long as they let him make Kirby Air Riders. So that's the rumor that's kind of going around right now, that Sakurai made this bargain, that like, hey, I'm going to make this next game, a game I want to make. Because, Sakurai loved Kirby Air Ride. It's a great GameCube game. So he gets to make that. He's working on that right now, and supposedly it's going to come out this year. I'll be honest, I 100% expect Kirby Air Riders to be delayed. But that's a story for another day. But, so he's working on that, and then after Kirby Air Riders finishes up development, he's going to start working on Smash Bros. 6. Will Smash Bros. 6 just be an ultimate, DLC pass? Smash Bros. Ultimate Deluxe Edition? I think that is totally possible. But we know, the rumor is that yes, this is the deal he made. He got to make a game he wants to, and in exchange, his next Nintendo game will be Smash 6. Because also, that came out as part of this, is the reason why Nintendo doesn't want to get somebody else to make Smash 6 is because they don't have faith in anybody else. They worry that Smash 6 without Sakurai wouldn't be a good game. And I mean, I kind of get it, because Sakurai puts a lot of love and care into his games. There's a reason he gets burnt out, right? He's burned out on the series. Because to be fair, it's all he's been working on for like 10 years. But yeah, Nintendo doesn't trust anybody else to do it. That if Sakurai isn't attached, a new Smash Bros. Won't work. So I get that concern, and that's why they let Sakurai make the game he wants. So that way, they can get a new Smash Bros. Do I think is this story real? I'll be honest, I'm skeptical. I could totally... See, here's the thing. I think this is totally possible. I think it is totally realistic that Sakurai made this deal. But I also... Based on how Smash Ultimate ended, it really felt like that this was like his final thing. That like he's gonna go off into the sunset and retire. It really did feel like that. That's at least the vibe I always got. So the idea that he's coming back for another one, it's just kind of weird. Like, if it's an expansion on Ultimate, okay, that's totally reasonable. But the only place I can see the next Smash Bros. Game going is a reboot. And I don't think they're going to reboot the franchise. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I think this is totally possible to be real. But if this isn't real, I wouldn't be surprised. But, you know, I'm excited for Kirby's Air Rider. Admittedly, I said with when Smash Ultimate ended development that Nintendo just needs to write Sakurai a blank check and let him make whatever game he wants. And it's cool he's right. Kirby Air Rider is a great game. It's a very... If you've never played Kirby's Air Rider, the only way... Or Kirby Air Rider. I keep calling it Air Riders just because that sounds so much... that sounds so natural. If you've never played Kirby Air Ride, it seems very simple, but it is actually a very steep learning curve. That game is very hard to learn. It can be very difficult. If you can figure it out, it's amazing. It's one of the best racing games ever made. But getting over that initial difficulty curve is such a nightmare. And to be fair, I don't think I've personally ever gone over it. For all the time I've played the game, like, especially if I'm doing, like, any of the races, I really struggle. Now, as part of this rumor, I guess this new Kirby Air Riders is a lot bigger than we think it's going to be. Because the original Kirby Air Ride isn't actually that huge of a game, so I guess this new one is going to be a lot bigger. Okay, may I ask this? If you download a game you already own, is that piracy? From a legal perspective, yes. If you're looking at a book of law, yeah, unless you are dumping your own, like, ROMs, yes. However, I think, and it's a little bit more, like, that's legally speaking. Morally speaking, not really. Like, morally, you're in the clear. But if like, let's say, like, you know, you got Nintendo ROMs for, like, Pokemon games you already own. And, like, Nintendo decided to pick you out and sue you, I don't think you'd get away with it in court. But, like, morally, you're in the clear. And I know people will say, well, if owning isn't buying, then piracy isn't stealing. And, like, I get that, but that feels like one of those, like, PC Master Race slogans that, you know, like, I get it. But, you know, you gotta remember not everyone is born with the same privilege or acumen. Okay, acumen isn't the word I was looking for, but I couldn't think of any other. It's complicated. I just, morally, yeah, you're probably going. That's why, to take advice from Grunkle Stan, nothing's illegal if you don't get caught. Words from a Disney show. Oh, I thought we were going to get hit right there. Oh my gosh. Alright, so that's all the news I've got for today. We're in the post-summer Games Fest season, and I'm going to be honest, there won't be any gaming news again until, like, August. Nothing happened. Unless we get a Nintendo Direct next month, which is rumored. There is a rumored Nintendo Direct coming in July. But really, the next gaming news thing is in Gamescom, Opening Night Live, which is like the first week of August. Other than that, it's just going to be dead news every week. Who states this and says that the only way to legally play these games is to release it? Because they don't want to encourage it. Like, you can buy a third-party device that does that. Again, if you want to do that on Switch games, the MiG Switch is one. For OG Switch games. But there's a certain legality to it. Again, technically it's against Nintendo's terms of service. It's a whole mess. Like, if you're dumping, like, Game Boy games, nobody's gonna, like, unless you're, like, going off to, like, the internet and being like, look at all these Nintendo games I've dumped. Here, have copies of my Nintendo games. Like, Nintendo's not gonna care. Nintendo, if you're distributing stuff, they care. But if you're not, they don't give a shit. And yes, would I like to see them release more stuff on eShop? Yes. But to be fair, I know people don't love Nintendo Switch Online, but I'm gonna be honest, I like Nintendo Switch Online classic games way more than I did the Wii or the Wii U eShops. The fact that I just pay one flat rate to basically get Virtual Console Netflix is way better than, the eShop that was before it. I don't own the games, but to be honest, does anyone pirating them own them either? To be fair, some of them I do actually own. I own a bunch of classic Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. Like, some of them I do actually own, but it's nice to play it on a TV or whatnot. It's nice not to pull out like a classic Game Boy and actually get something that's more than 8-bit and, more than black and green. But yeah, does anybody pirating them own them either? I'm not too beat up over that with classic games. I get the complaint, and I do think preservations of games is important. But if you're talking about any game made like 20 years ago, shit like that already exists online. There are collections that exist. And if you really cared about owning your games, you'd buy them physically. That's the thing. If you really do care, you'll buy them physically. Admittedly, yes, the game key card stuff sucks. But to be fair, every first-party game is not going to be a game key card. And sure, does that suck for a game like Street Fighter that is a game key card and, once the servers go down, that becomes lost content or whatever? For the people, well, again, it's more complicated than that. Yes. Does that suck? Yes. Do I think game preservation matters? Yes. Do I want to kind of not stop talking about this because I don't want to pull pirate software? Also, yes. It's complicated. I do think people should own their games. But at a certain point, I don't know if it matters. Yeah, and guess what? That's how it works for everything else. I mean, listen, the only way to true ownership is to actually own physical games. That's just kind of how it is. And I think that's more of an industry problem than a Nintendo problem. That's more of, the entire, like, we need legislation in Congress or in the European Union than just bitching at Nintendo. That's not going to fix this. This is something an actual, that a law needs to be passed to fix. But, Nintendo's going to lobby against it. That's literally why the ESA exists, is to lobby against stuff like that. Just telling it like it is. Alright, so what have I been playing? What have I been doing? I've been playing 3 games this week. I want to talk about all 3 of them real quick. 2 of them don't fucking matter. Just as long as you're not, going online with it or bragging to other people, Nintendo's never gonna know. As long as you're not, screaming from the rooftops, hey Nintendo, look at my modded Switch, Nintendo's never gonna know. And what they don't know can't hurt them. Legally, you're not in the clear, but what they don't know can't hurt them. So, there's nothing you can do at that point. And there's nothing they can do to hurt you either. It's just, people really need to learn to shut the fuck up. And this goes for all walks of life. Whenever anyone breaks the law, the cops arrest them, shut the fuck up. Talk to a lawyer. People just don't learn that. I know you're just using an example. I get it. But people just need to learn to shut the fuck up. Oh, did someone break into your house and put crack, or, did a cop catch you with crack on you? Sure, they did. But if you shut the fuck up, a lawyer can come in and be like, oh, somebody else planted that crack on him. There's no proof he actually owns it. Shut the fuck up. That's the big thing. People, in the age of social media, not enough people have learned it. I'm not a lawyer, but that's like my number one advice. Just shut the fuck up. Get a lawyer who actually knows what they're talking about. Ugh. Okay, so I've been playing 3 games. Wilmot's Warehouse, which doesn't matter. Cookie Clicker, which doesn't matter. And Date Everything, which does matter. So I want to talk about all 3 of those, and then I got a movie to talk about, because I know last week I said I was going to watch KPop Demon Hunter. I sat down, I watched KPop Demon Hunter, and it was so good I watched it twice. So, let's talk about it. Let's do the boring one. We'll talk about Date Everything. Let's talk about the boring ones first. I played Wilmot. If you've never heard of Wilmot's Warehouse, Wilmot's Warehouse is a game, it's probably on sale right now on Steam. And it's just, you're a little square named Wilmot, and you're organizing a warehouse. You know, new shipments come in, you organize boxes however you want, and then customers come in, you give them the boxes they want, and then, you know, it's a cycle. It's a super simple puzzle game that I'm terrible at. But I really do enjoy. I think it's, design-wise, it's really good. And I bet you could probably get it on Steam right now for like $1. Well, it got a sequel this year called Wilmot Works It Out, which is a puzzle game about literally doing puzzles. It uses all the mechanics of Wilmot's Warehouse, but instead of organizing boxes, you're doing jigsaw puzzles. Like, it's literally a puzzle game about doing puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. And that's it. You're in Wilmot's house. He's subscribed to a Puzzle of the Month club. Every month you get a new puzzle from the mailman, who, there's a whole overarching story with the mailman, and oh, her sister moves in with her. Oh, she's going on vacation to Italy. You know, she's going to Spain. You know, you're friends with her. There's a whole story that, you know, is just people living their lives. Meanwhile, the gameplay is all just, you know, doing jigsaw puzzles. It's super simple, super basic, but I had a really good time doing it. I'm not a jigsaw guy. Like, I don't really do jigsaw puzzles, but I like the idea of jigsaw puzzles. I see how they can be satisfying. Personally, the satisfaction I get from jigsaw puzzles, I get from Legos. That's why I like Legos so much. But I get the appeal of jigsaw puzzles. And this video game that has, like, small puzzles. Like, I think the biggest puzzle I ever had was probably, like, 10 by 10. It wasn't huge. Not every week do you get every piece. You know, some puzzles are big, some puzzles are small. It's super simple. I think we talked about it in a previous week. But I finally beat it. It's on Switch, it's on Steam. And yeah, it's pretty good. If you're down for just a cute little puzzle game, there's no time limits or anything. It's totally the definition of like a cozy game. It's just a super relaxing little puzzle game about making puzzles. I totally recommend it. I had a good time with it. The story with the mailman was kind of cute. I like how it ended. Like the final puzzle and how it all kind of wraps up was super satisfying. If I had to guess, I'd say there's probably like 100 puzzles in the game. Like, it's probably closer to like 80. But still, you know, there's a decent amount. I think it takes you, like, Puzzle of a Month. It's Puzzle of a Month, but the game's broken down into, like, seasons. And it breaks down into, I think you do 8 seasons. Each season has, like, 8 puzzles in it, or 8 or 10, depending on the season. It's just a really good, really simple, really solid game. So yeah, I'd recommend it. The other game that doesn't matter that I've been playing is Cookie Clicker. You've probably heard of Cookie Clicker. You know, you click cookies and your goal is to make like an undecillion, sextillion amount of cookies. Just incomprehensible amounts. And it recently came to consoles. It's on PlayStation, it's on Switch, it's on Steam. Eventually it's supposedly going to have a Switch 2 version, even though nothing's been confirmed yet. I've been playing it on Switch. And basically, I've had the game running in the background forever now. But I've hit the point, so you have to ascend, after you get certain amounts of cookies, you ascend, and then you can get, like, permanent upgrades that, like, make it so that the next run, you generate even more. And I think it takes a total to, you know, 100% the game. it takes like 21, 22 ascensions. I'm at Ascension 15. But Ascension 15, there's an achievement in the game to ascend 1,000 times. And you're supposed to get that achievement around Ascension 15. And it is the worst part of it. Because I want to say, I've already done this all on PC. I have beaten this game on PC. To get to where I am now, I have 75 hours in the Switch version. To get to this exact same point on PC took me 300 hours. So doing this the second time definitely went a lot quicker. Like, I definitely know what I'm doing now. Not that I've 100%ed it or anything. Because, yeah, the ascend 1,000 times is the worst part of the game. Because each ascension takes like 30 seconds, and you have to do that 1,000 times. So just let me math real quick. It is 30 seconds per ascension. So that's a minute. So that's 1,000 times 260. It take how long is that? That's what, 30 hours? That's definitely, I'm definitely doing the math wrong there. I probably actually should have cut that in half. 60. Takes 8 hours. Just 8 hours. Like, most of Cookie Clicker, you can just leave running in the background and just kind of ignore the game. The Ascensions, you actually have to play, and it is the most boring, most repetitive thing in the world. And it sucks. And it's the worst part of the game. And so right now I'm kind of like taking a break. But yeah, I'm making good progress. It's Cookie Clicker. The Switch version fucking sucks. The lag is awful. And I think like on PC it took me like 30 seconds. On Switch version it probably takes me a minute. Awful. Awful either way. I don't recommend it. I do wait for some patches. I do think it's like, it's a good like, I know I talked earlier about how number go up isn't always the best thing. Sometimes I like to see the number go up. What can I say? And at least with Cookie Clicker, I always feel like I'm working towards something. So that's that. Date everything. So if you've not heard of this, this is a dating sim where the idea is you can date everything. You're in a house, you have these special goggles, and like, hey, you look at the toaster, and the toaster becomes a person, a feisty Latina. You look at the fridge, and it becomes this big burly guy. Your teddy bear becomes a bear. The boxes in your closet, like cardboard boxes, Indiana Jones. The fireplace is named Dante and is voiced by Dante Bosco. The D20 on your desk is voiced by Matt Mercer. You know, you just date everything in your house. It's really cute. It makes me very aware of how heterosexual I am. I want to say, I've seen some people come out and be very homophobic against this game, being like, oh, well, I'm a straight male. I don't want to even talk to any of the other male characters. I think that's just not a fun way to play it. Like, sure, one of the important mechanics of the game is you can make the other dateables love you, be friends with you, or hate you. Sure, the game's called Date Everything, but you don't have to date everything. I've even, there's a lamp, you can, talk to the lamp, and the lamp becomes, is this, fashion influencer, who personally reminded me of Logan Paul, and I was like, I fucking hate you. And we became enemies. Meanwhile, other ones, you can play with, your Xbox, and it comes to life, and it's this girl, and yeah, we quickly became friends, just by playing video games together. There are so many. It's so cute. And even though, again, I'm heterosexual, I'm straight, so I'm mostly, trying to date the women, I can still have fun with the men. Volt and Eddie, who run the Circuit Breaker bar, they're a lot of fun. Hector in the vents is great. I loved picking on the pirate, Jacques. He was good. I was caught off guard because I share the name as one of the characters. I want to say it's the Blanket, has the exact same name as me, and I'm like, nope, I'm never talking to you again. Even though he seemed really sweet. Like, his whole thing is he, like, rescues dogs and cats. And I was like, oh, that's really cute. Too bad we share the same name, so I can never talk to you again. So that's that. But no, overall, I'm enjoying the game. I'm getting more invested in some of these stories. I have only dated, like, a few of them. You know, I dated Holly, who's the holiday, like, decorations in your closet. I was working on Mac, and then right as I thought we were about to start, like, I was setting things up with Mac, and it's like, oh, we were going to go write fan fiction together. And then Mac's like, oh, you want to be in an open relationship? Or let's go talk to other people. And I'm like, no, we were right there. What the? Admittedly, that was like the last thing I did, so I haven't followed up on that. Dating Beverly, dating Betty, you know, I've worked on all of those. But yeah, overall, I think the character design is great. So many good dateables. Yes, am I mostly interested in the women? Yes. But I can have fun with the men. The wall really surprised me. Like, I did not see that coming. But I think there's some really good ones. There's some good moments. Overall, I'm enjoying it. I am not a dating sim guy by any means. I'd say this is if you've never played a dating sim before, this one is very low stakes. You can literally date everything, so, you know, find the ones you like. And be open-minded about the ones that you maybe don't like. Like, sure, did I hate the light because he was Logan Paul? Yes. Would I maybe try to make up with him at some point? Potentially. You know, you just gotta have fun with it. That's what I think matters. You know, you take what you want, see what else you can get. And so far, I've gotten what I want, and I've gotten a few extras as well. So I'm having a good time with it. There's still so much more. I think there's 100 dateables, I've only met like 50. So I haven't even seen half of the game. But yeah, I'm having a really good time. As like the second or third dating sim I've ever played. Okay, it might be fourth. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. I think it's a pretty decent one to do. I've checked out Hatoful Boyfriend. I've definitely played worse. God, that game's fucking weird. Even though I legitimately don't remember a single thing about it. I remember it being weird. I remember pigeon dystopian government, and that's about it. I could not tell you a single thing about that, because me and my friends were just laughing at it. Alright, now let's get on to the thing I actually want to talk about. So last week, I mentioned KPop Demon Hunter. I was super excited for this movie. You know, it's Sony, people behind the scenes at Spider-Verse, and then the director is married to the person who did Kipo. You know, Kipo in the Age of Wonder Beasts, the Netflix show? Yeah, it's that person, it's their partner. Literally, I found out through their TikToks that this movie's been in development since like 2018. They literally, in that time, named their child Rumi Oak. Rumi being the main character in this, and Oak being Kipo's last name. Like, holy shit. That's adorable. And of course, their child plays young Rumi in this. So this movie, KPop Demon Hunter, is the second best movie I've seen all year. People, you know, I've seen a lot of people in the past week talk about, oh, what about Disney and Elio? People always say they want more original movies, and then Disney releases Elio and nobody goes and watches it. That's a Disney movie. You want an original movie? You go watch this. Even though this movie does remind me a lot of Sinners, the best movie I've seen this year, and no, I will not elaborate about that at all. But you want original movies? Go watch Sinners. Go watch this. These are your original movies. Don't go watch Disney schlock. Even though I really did enjoy Elio, I thought it was a perfectly serviceable Disney movie. This is the originality I want. And this, I've seen this movie twice. I saw it once when it came out, and then I went over to my parents' place, because I knew, after watching it, I was like, my mother's going to love this. And I made my mother watch it, and guess what? She loved it. I totally nailed that on the head. This is a great movie. As someone who knows nothing about K-pop, literally the only thing I know is I've heard a few BTS songs, and I've heard a few Blackpink songs. I totally vibed with this movie. I thought the music was fantastic. It is a musical. I know it's K-pop, but it is a musical because the music progresses the story. At least I think that's what makes it a musical. I would say it's a musical. And the basic story is that it follows Rumi, Zoe, and Mira, three K-pop stars who are fulfilling this ancient legacy of K-pop stars, or people who make music in Korea who fight demons. They're demon hunters. Rumi's mom was a demon hunter, and so now the mom's dead, but she was raised by the other Sunshine sister, Celine, and now she's picking up the tradition with, Mira and Zoe. And the animation is great, the music is great, the story, I was so invested. Because one of the things, spoiler alert, I guess, early on you learn Rumi is half demon. That all the demons have like these marks on their arms, and Rumi has marks. And so that's like her internal struggle that creates external conflict. And it is so well done. I was so invested. The main antagonists are a demon boy band. Like, I'll be honest, I was already interested in this movie just based off the premise. K-pop demon hunters, that sounds like a lot of fun. But the moment I found out there was going to be a demon boy band, this movie went from, yeah, that looks good, to that looks great. The demon boy band is so good. It is a romance. The main boy band member, Jinu, who is a demon, does have romance with Rumi as, he figures out about her scars and, talks to her about it. It is good romance. I really was invested in it. His little cat Derpy and the little bird are a lot of fun. The animation's beautiful, man. It's really good. It's Sony Animations. They're really on their A game right now. People complain about how Disney and Pixar movies all look too similar. Meanwhile, Sony's willing to take risks, do interesting things, and it pays off basically every time. But yeah, I'm invested in the plot, invested in the characters. All the songs are, about the characters. Like the big song Golden, that, it's not the one that opens the movie, but, it's the second big song, which is all about, like, where each of the girls come from. It tells us about them, tells us their struggles, how they hide their struggles, but, they're trying to use it to improve themselves. It's a found family film, technically, because, Mira and Zoe both have their own struggles of feeling like they don't belong. If we get a sequel, that's what I want it to. I know some people want it to be about Rumi and Jinu, which I get. I'd want it to be about Mira and Zoe. I see the obvious thing with Zoe, they go to America, we meet whatever the American version of the K-pop Demon Hunters is. I think that could be fun. I'd also be down to learn about Mira and her, like, disconnect with her parents, dig more into that. But it's so good. All the music is so... Sure, does some of it sound like a Sears ad? Soda Pop? Yes. But I love all the songs. If I had to rate them all, I think my favorite probably is Golden. I like Golden. I like the first one. It's not called What We Do. What is it called? The first song... I've added all this music to Spotify, because I was like, oh, this is good. I want this all on my Spotify. How It's Done is a great opening song. Sets a great vibe for the movie. That's the one you hear in the trailer, and it's like, oh, this is so satisfying. Soda Pop, it's boy band schlock. Sears commercial. Still is very catchy. Golden, I think, is great. This is the song about them, about their stories. They're almost about to reach their goals. Rumi's finally going to be able to get rid of her marks. It's probably my favorite. Takedown, they put it great in the movie, where it's like, Takedown's a decent song, but it's just mean. They can't defeat the demon boy band, the Saja Boys, because it's too mean-spirited. And also, they use it against Rumi, and it's really good. It works really well in the movie. But I do agree, it is kind of mean. Free is the romance song between Genu and Rumi. And I see a lot of people really like Free. Personally, it doesn't really do it for me. It's whatever. Your Idol is the villain song. We get a villain song. And sure, does it kind of remind me of the Equestria Girls villain song from the second Equestria Girls movie? Yes. Yes, it does. But I still did really like it. I don't think it's one of my favorites, but it's nice that we got a villain song. And finally, What It Sounds Like is the song that ends the movie. And while it's a little repetitive, I do still think it is good. The music is just so good. It's such a good movie. Right now, it's the second best movie I've seen this year. Right behind only Sinners. But by the end of the year, when I do my top 10 lists, if this is my favorite movie, do not at all be surprised. Because while I do really like Sinners, and it is a really good movie, it is a horror movie at the end of the day. I will probably never rewatch Sinners, just because, it's not my style. Meanwhile, this, I will watch 100 times. I will listen to the soundtrack. I will do everything. That's kind of... I know that that doesn't matter for everybody. Replayability isn't always a big deal for people. But for me, it kind of is. Like, the idea of, do I want to watch this movie again? That does matter to me. So, yeah, if by the end of the year, this is my movie of the year, do not be surprised. It is so good. The fight scenes are great. Of course, it's Sony Animations. They know how to do good fight scenes. It's the people who did Kipo, which I looked through a few episodes of Kipo. I completely forgot Kipo had a K-pop band in it. They had K-pop narwhals, the wall sirens. I completely forgot about that. But Kipo, if you've never seen Kipo, it's also on Netflix. If you really liked K-pop Demon Hunters, go check it out. It's also really good. Music also plays a heavy role in that one. But they spice it up with a few different genres and whatnot. Yeah, this show has been going on long enough that we talked about Kipo. Way back when the show used to be called In Chat, Season 4, Episodes 4 and 5, we talked about Kipo. Those, you can go out there and still find those streams. They're all up on YouTube. So if you want to see my thoughts on Kipo, guess what? That exists. You can go find that. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I love the character. I know I'm just talking in circles at this point, because we're almost done. But it's so good. It's so fun. The comedy, I love the comedy. They put in a derpy little cat and a bird with a hat. Basically one step away from your typical Disney sidekicks, and they're not annoying at all. When the little cat does the thing with the flower pot, super entertaining. It's so good. It's likable, man. And then it can be it still does have a plot. It still does have action. It does have its tense moments, and they work really well as well. I know I'm not getting into the spoilers here, at least as much as I should. But it all just works out. It comes together. Why did they stop? Is there something they know that I didn't? I'm looking for a blue shell. It all comes together really well. It is so good. Yep. Yes, it is. It's my little guy. Yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters. Easily, it's on Netflix. It is my biggest recommendation of the year. I know Netflix has a bad rap nowadays. Rightfully so, Netflix kind of sucks. But every once in a while, they just put out a banger. And this is usually, in recent years, it's usually just been Tim Robinson. Is this your custom ones? Yeah. Yep. I've got different emotions and everything. I can do it all. Oh, don't you just love it? Look how I love this movie. Yeah, will I watch this movie again? Oh yeah, of course. course I will. This, man, K-Pop Demon Hunter. Like, I knew it was gonna be good, but I was blown away by how good it was. Like I know some people were more skeptical than me, because K-Pop Demon Hunter, like, I get that, but it all just works so well. And I'm totally not doing justice talking about it. I'm just so excited to say how good it is that I'm, like, not, like, giving it any depth. But trust me, it is so worth it. I'm perfectly happy with how it is now. I don't need any changes whatsoever. So anything else? I guess that does that take us to the end, more or less. Can I be honest? Playing Mario Kart this past hour, I'm so fucking fed up with this game. I know I mentioned earlier that if the game's not fun, why play it? And if it isn't obvious, I'm very bad at this game. And so I'm just kind of tired. I'm done. I'm just bad. And I'm just not having fun. I think this is a good game, but I'm not having fun. I'm just not. I'm gonna end off. I'm done for the night. You know, I talked about K-pop. I talked about Mario Kart. I think I'm good. We'll be back later in the week with more in chat. Anything else, if a Nintendo Direct ever happens. But that's where I'm done for the night. So I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, peace.